Marcel walked into that investigation, I knew something was wrong. Not small mistake, wrong. I mean, the kind of wrong that quietly destroys an entire case before anyone even realizes it's happening. Because here's the thing that Beyond the Gates keeps teasing us with. The real danger isn't always Plasma King itself. Sometimes the real danger is the person standing closest to the investigation. And honestly, I think Jacob already understands that. Right now, the entire storyline feels like a ticking bomb built on one fatal problem: trust. Who can Jacob trust? Elon? Marcel? The department? Or absolutely nobody? That's what makes this plot so much smarter than people are giving it credit for. Let's break this down carefully, because the details matter. At this point, it seems almost certain that Jacob passed information to Elon regarding Leah, but I don't think Jacob told him everything. Specifically, I don't think Jacob made it clear that the investigation needed to stay completely secret because Leah is most likely connected directly to Plasma King. And if that's true, then Jacob had every reason to hold back, because the second Leah realizes she's being watched, Jacob and Grayson are no longer just investigators. They become targets. That changes everything. What fascinates me is how the show is quietly building Jacob into the only truly cautious and morally consistent character in this entire storyline. He's not paranoid for no reason. He's reading the room correctly. He knows corruption doesn't always look obvious. Sometimes corruption wears a badge. And suddenly, Marcel being assigned to question Leah becomes incredibly suspicious, out of all people. Marcel, the man who already has a close relationship with her, that decision makes no logical sense if Elon genuinely wants a clean investigation. Think about it. If Leah and Marcel are friends, or possibly even more connected than we realize, then the moment Marcel approaches her, the entire operation is compromised. Even if Marcel doesn't directly reveal details, his behavior alone could warn her. And honestly, I don't even think he'd try very hard to hide it. That's the biggest issue I have with Marcel as a character right now. He doesn't operate like someone driven by integrity. He operates like someone driven by personal loyalty and self-interest. Huge difference. Jacob follows principles. Marcel follows relationships. That distinction matters because investigations involving organizations like Plasma King require emotional detachment. You can't protect friends and protect the truth at the same time. Sooner or later, one of them loses. And I think the show already hinted that Marcel chose his side a long time ago. That phone call Leah received last week suddenly looks very different now, doesn't it? At first, it felt random, maybe even filler. But now, I think that call was a warning. Someone informed her she was being watched. And who would realistically have access to that information? Exactly. Marcel fits too perfectly into the puzzle. What makes this even more dangerous is Elon's role in all of this. I actually think Elon believes he's making the right decisions. That's what makes the situation tragic instead of simply stupid. Elon trusts Marcel. Jacob doesn't, and eventually those two viewpoints are going to collide hard. You can already see the emotional fracture forming between father and son. Jacob suspects that Elon himself may have shady dealings or at least questionable judgment. As an honest cop, Jacob cannot ignore that possibility even if it involves his own father. That's important because many shows would take the easy route and make Jacob blindly loyal to family. But Beyond the Gates is doing something more uncomfortable. It's asking, what happens when morality becomes more important than blood? Jacob is slowly realizing that protecting the truth may require exposing people he loves. That's brutal. And honestly, it makes him one of the strongest characters in the series right now. Meanwhile, Marcel represents the exact opposite energy. Every scene with him feels slippery. There's always something hidden underneath his words. His methods are strange. His reactions are delayed in suspicious ways. Even the way he communicates feels calculated. Jacob noticing that isn't accidental writing. The show wants us to feel uneasy around Marcel. And here's where my theory gets even darker. I don't think Marcel is merely careless. I think there's a real possibility he's directly connected to Plasma King. Not metaphorically, literally Because once you start connecting all the relationships, the pattern becomes impossible to ignore. Leah works at Garland Hospital. She appears to operate a double life. Marcel protects or warns her. Marcel also works for Joey. And Joey's name keeps circling back into plasma-related conversations. At some point, coincidence stops being coincidence. This is where the storyline becomes genuinely interesting because the threat may not be external anymore. Plasma King might already have people embedded inside the institutions meant to stop them. Hospitals, police, personal relationships. That's how organizations survive in real life too, through networks, favors, silence, and compromised people. The scariest villains aren't always violent. Sometimes they're simply connected. And Marcel feels very connected. What I appreciate about Jacob is that he seems to understand this instinctively. That's probably why he withheld certain information from Elon in the first place. Some viewers might criticize him for that, but honestly, I think it was smart. If Jacob fully trusted Elon and Marcel, he would have revealed everything immediately. He didn't. That tells me Jacob already suspects the investigation is compromised from inside the department. And if that's true, then his isolation makes sense. The problem is, isolation is also dangerous. Because while Jacob is trying to protect the truth, he's also running out of time. Leah now potentially knows she's under suspicion. That gives her time to erase evidence, contact allies, manipulate narratives, or even strike first. That's the part people keep overlooking. Information itself is power in this storyline. The moment secrecy dies, the balance changes. And Marcel may have accidentally or intentionally destroyed Jacob's biggest advantage. Honestly, one of the smartest narrative choices here is how the show refuses to make corruption cartoonishly obvious. Marcel isn't twirling a mustache in dark rooms. He still functions as a police officer. He still maintains relationships. He still appears normal. That ambiguity is exactly why he's dangerous. Corrupt people rarely introduce themselves as villains. They justify everything. I was helping a friend. I didn't want to create panic. I handled it my way. But every compromised decision weakens the system little by little. That's why Jacob's perspective matters so much. He's one of the few characters actually treating Plasma King like the level of threat it truly is. Everyone else keeps allowing emotions to interfere. And I need to say this because I think the show is subtly criticizing something larger through this storyline. Institutions fail when loyalty becomes more important than accountability. That's the real theme here. Elon trusts Marcel because of familiarity. Marcel protects Leah because of personal connection. Joey likely protects people because of mutual benefit. Meanwhile, Jacob stands alone because he refuses to compromise. See the pattern? The honest person becomes isolated while the compromised people stay connected. That's not accidental writing. And honestly, the more I think about it, the more I wonder if Jacob's biggest mistake won't be trusting the wrong person, but waiting too long to act against them. Because right now, Marcel should absolutely be under investigation too. Not eventually. No. At minimum, he's compromised emotionally. At worst, he's actively feeding information to Plasma King. Either possibility is catastrophic. If Jacob and Elon continue ignoring that risk, everything could collapse before they even reach the truth. And imagine how devastating that would be narratively. Jacob spends all this time carefully building evidence, only for someone inside the system to destroy it from within. That's the kind of betrayal that changes characters permanently. It would also completely shatter Elon's trust in Marcel. In many ways, I think that emotional fallout is being set up already. Elon believes Marcel is dependable, but the show keeps planting tiny cracks underneath that belief. Tiny cracks become fractures. Fractures become collapse. And if Marcel truly is connected to Plasma King, then Elon's blind trust may become one of the biggest failures in the entire story. What makes this even more compelling is Leah herself. She's not being portrayed as obviously evil either. That's important. Her position as Garland Hospital's respected department head gives her legitimacy and protection. People trust appearances. That's exactly why double identities work so well in stories like this. A respected medical professional secretly tied to an illegal plasma operation? That's terrifying precisely because it feels believable. Power hides best behind respectability. And if Leah has been operating two lives successfully for this long, then she's probably much smarter and more prepared than most characters realize. Which means Jacob cannot afford mistakes anymore. No emotional decisions, no misplaced trust, no delays. Because once people like Leah realize the walls are closing in, they don't panic immediately. Nowed. That's what dangerous people do. And unfortunately, Marcel may already be helping her adapt. I also think viewers should pay attention to Joey more carefully. Marcel working under Joey creates another layer of suspicion the show keeps quietly emphasizing. The connections are becoming too dense to ignore. Joey, Marcel, Leah, Plasma King. The lines between them are starting to blur into one structure. And honestly, that might be the real twist. Maybe Plasma King isn't just an organization hiding in shadows. Maybe it's already woven directly into the city's power system through trusted people. That idea changes the entire scale of the story because then Jacob isn't fighting one criminal group anymore. He's fighting an ecosystem, and ecosystems protect themselves. That's why I'm genuinely worried for Jacob and Grayson moving forward. If Leah realizes how much Jacob actually knows, retaliation could come fast. Not necessarily through violence immediately, but through manipulation, discrediting, or internal sabotage. Characters like Marcel are perfect for that kind of damage because they don't need to attack openly. They just need to leak information, misdirect investigations, or delay action at the right moment. Quiet corruption is often more effective than open evil. That's the scary part. And maybe that's the biggest insight from this entire storyline. The people who destroy justice are not always the masterminds. Sometimes they're the enablers, the ones who look the other way, the ones who choose comfort over truth. Jacob understands this. Elon still doesn't, at least not yet, but I think reality is coming for him very soon. Because if Marcel truly warned Leah directly or indirectly, then the damage has already begun. And once trust inside an investigation is broken, rebuilding it becomes nearly impossible. That's why this storyline has me hooked right now, not because of explosions or shock value, but because the tension feels psychological and layered. Every conversation suddenly matters. Every alliance feels unstable. Nobody is fully clean. Nobody is fully safe. And the most dangerous thing of all, Jacob may already be surrounded.